University Track and Field Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana, ready for the final day's events in the United States Outdoor Track and Field Championships. Many of the greatest athletes, not only from the United States, but from all around the world are here, and yet most of the attention in this meet focuses on one man, Carl Lewis. Already you've seen him as running in lane 5 in the middle of the track. He defeated NCAA champion Emmett King of Alabama and Alabama's Calvin Smith, who ranked number 2 in the world a year ago in the 100-meter dash. It was the first of what Carl Lewis hopes will be 3 dramatic victories in this meet. The 2 sprints and the long jump, a triple not accomplished since a man named Malcolm Ford did it in 1886. Comparisons with Jesse Owens should not be taken lightly. For a long time, you could honestly say there was only one like Jesse. But now there is another. Some would say he emerged in an unlikely event. Carl Lewis was 7 years old when Bob Beamon charged down an Olympic runway in the thin air of Mexico City and made the leap which changed the long jump forever. 29 feet, 2.5 inches, nearly 2 feet beyond Ralph Boston's former world record. An accomplishment so spectacular, so unexpected, that it effectively ended Beamon's career and pushed a generation of long jumpers into the twilight zone of obscurity. It would be 15 years before the little boy from Willingboro, New Jersey, would pull the curtain back to reveal the long jump again. Poetically, he grew up competing in the Jesse Owens Youth Program. And by age 21, he was ready to think seriously about Beamon's record. A year ago, here in Indianapolis at the National Sports Festival, Lewis uncorked a 28-foot 9-inch jump, the longest ever at sea level. The jump, which suddenly made 29 feet, seemed more than a vague possibility. Now he is back in Indianapolis and dreaming of that historic triple.
This is the first big meet for me for the year. I'm looking for some very unheard of things this weekend, which one thing is adding the triple, adding the 200 meters to my entourage of events, so to say. I've been able to double the last 2 years in 100 meters and long jump, and I felt it would be interesting on my part, as well as everyone else's part, for me to add the 200 meters. I'm much stronger than I was before. My times are better, my jumping is better, and I feel that it's just another challenge. It's something to get the blood flowing again. In the past, I compete the first 2 days, and I sit and watch the last day as the 200 meters is run. And this year, I'm leading the world at 200 meters, so I want to go out there and try to give it a shot.
In a sport marked off by hundreds of seconds, Lewis often seems light years ahead of his rivals. Why?
Right now, I feel that I'm on top of my game and with everything that I do, and I have an awful lot of confidence. Confidence is just preparation, mental and physical preparation. I know that I have the talent to be as good as anybody has ever been in the world. And I also have the best coaching I think that anybody's ever had. So if I put those two things together in correct perspective, then I don't feel there's a problem with me winning or competing very well.
When you go through your double hitch kick, you got to finish it off. Don't just stop and wait for the ground. Finish it off.
Lewis's coach, Tom Tellez, is regarded as a scientific long jump specialist. He says Carl's winning edge is largely mental.
Under stress situations, the great athlete will do what you want him to do. The not-so-good athlete will change because of the stress. Carl sees very quickly the things that you want him to accomplish, and he's able to practice them, and then in a meet, do them better than in practice.
I feel if I attain the goals that I set for myself, which are extremely high, that I am going to be at the top of the sport, if not impossible to be beaten. But I feel that if I'm 100% mentally and physically, and I attain the goals I set for myself, that I can't be beaten.
Now as we prepare for the long jump final, no one expects Carl Lewis to be beaten in this event, but Marty LaCour, there's much on his mind as he prepares for this first of the 6 available jumps.
His strategy is to just take this first jump, really get a long, fair jump out there, and then pass on the final 5 so that he can rest up for the 200 meters.
Way out there, Marty. He's near the 29-foot sign again.
Well, he looks a little calm right now. You remember when he jumped 28.9 last year, he also had a 30-footer disallowed because of a foul, and I think he's waiting to make sure before he celebrates that this one was fair.
Well, it's a fair jump. We're just waiting for the distance now. It looks like a very long one.
189. 879.
Yeah. You think you're worthy?
Oh, my.
I don't know if Carl knows how long that is either.
Jump in history, 879, 28.10
28.10 and a quarter. The second longest jump in history And Marty, every time he steps on the track, he does something spectacular. This is simply amazing on the very first jump of the competition.
Well, it is, because a long jumper has a lot of problems getting their steps down perfectly. Usually the big jumps are the last three or even the last jump. He comes down and he just hits the greatest jump at sea level on the first attempt. That just shows how well trained he is. We talk about his long strides in the sprints, but here they not only have to be long, but they also have to be measured perfectly every time. And you can see on his plant, no foul. He's getting a lot of height in his jumps that I don't think he was getting last year. He's increased his speed, he's increased his strength, and that is very apparent in this jump.
And now we're going to take a head-on look at this remarkable athlete as he comes down the runway right at you toward the takeoff
Here
board.
you can see how much height he's getting. Last year he was running down the runway very quickly and then jumping out into the pit, but now his strength is so much that he's really getting up there high as Beeman did, but he still could probably get a few more inches out of the last part of his landing if he were trying to go for a record and not just a fair jump. There's a lot more potential there.
Beeman's record 29.2.5 on this runway. Carl has now produced a 28.10 1/4, a 28.9, a 28.7, the three longest jumps ever at sea level. Coming up, Edwin Moses going for number 75 in a row in the 400-meter hurdles. 400-meter hurdles, and a chance for world record holder Edwin Moses to polish what is already the most impressive competitive record in this sport. But first, a look back at what happened to two important American distance runners in this meet. First, world marathon record holder Alberto Salazar, who squared off in a tight 10,000-meter battle with Craig Virgin and Mark Nenow. With a little more than a lap to go, the three of them were together in a driving rainstorm when Virgin took the lead.
Well, Virgin took the lead here just as the gun went off, just like they do in the movies. It was a very aggressive move by him and by Virgin, as you'll see, they're lapping runners. The thing here is everyone in the stands, knowing Alberto Salazar's style of running, his supposed lack of a kick, felt that it was Craig Virgin's race and he was just going to pull away over the last 200 meters. Everyone, I guess, but Salazar. What Salazar knows, and many people know, is that Craig Virgin had a serious kidney problem last year and is probably not the same man that was the world cross-country champion 2 years ago. So Salazar hung in there, and here's something you don't often see. Alberto Salazar now going to take the lead off the last turn. Virgin gritting it out, but he knows when he looks at Salazar's face that a determined man is going by him.
So Alberto Salazar will compete in the 10,000-meter run at the World Championships in Helsinki. He cannot compete in the marathon there because he elected not to run in the Boston Marathon this year. That served as the qualifier for the World Championship. The women's equivalent of Alberto Salazar is Mary Decker, holder of every American record from 1,500 meters up to 10,000 meters. And in the 1,500 here, she had her normal experience, pressing herself against her own expectations and the clock, well ahead of a field of American runners.
And Mary takes quite literally the amateur athletic code, which is to do your best every time out. And she does just that, even though the competition is far behind, because I think she knows in her mind that someday in the near future, perhaps next summer, her best may not be enough, and she's preparing to give her best every time out.
The 1982 Sullivan Award winner as our nation's outstanding amateur athlete won this race in a quick time, later won the 3,000-meter race at this meet. She, too, will be at Helsinki. And now, the finals of the 400-meter hurdles. World record 47.13 held by Edwin Moses. Way back in 1977, he lost a race to Harold Schmidt of West Germany. It hasn't happened since. 74 times on the track, 74 victories since then for Moses. But this has been a week of extraordinary pressure for Edwin. 6 days ago, he spoke out against the use of anabolic steroids to promote muscle development by track and field athletes, Americans as well as foreigners.
It's, I think, interwoven within the whole world of sports, and not just track and field, not just amateur athletics, and not just here in the United States. So those are the points that I would really like to make. And I don't feel that I'm really trying to point the finger at anyone. It's just that it's gotten to the point where the young kids, it's gotten to the point where we're beginning to sacrifice the youth of America, and they look up to a person like me, and I would just like to let them know that it doesn't take that to be a great athlete, and I think that I'm proud to say that.
He was never a gregarious or outspoken figure in the past. Some were a bit surprised that Edwin took the spotlight on that particular issue this week. And in his preliminary races leading up to this final, he did not look smooth. He did not look in control as he always has before. Very quickly, the rest of the field in lane 2, Andre Hargrove, lane 3, John Thomas, lane 4, Moses, lane 5, David Lee, who might challenge him, lane 6, Julius Mercer, lane 7, James King, lane 8, Mark Patrick, lane 9, Andre Phillips. As they go down the backstretch, it is James King in lane 7 who has gone out hard to try to challenge Edwin Moses. But Moses is building momentum as they get to the turn. He's made up the stagger on David Lee, and today, Ronaldo, he looks good.
He looks like the old Edwin Moses, and the key factor to Edwin Moses is that no one is usually with him coming off that last 8th hurdle, going into the last 2 hurdles. And right there, that's when it's do or die if you're going to try to catch Edwin Moses.
Here he comes. It's like a royal procession as he comes down the front straight. Not really a race. And you'll hear them rise and applaud as Edwin Moses presses down on the tape. 47.83, just 7/10 off his world record. He did it without competition. And you can say it, yes, Edwin Moses is back. So the streak remains alive. 75 straight times, something almost unheard of in a sport where hundreds of seconds create the margin between athletes who work for years and years to perfect their technique in a given event. Edwin Moses remains invincible. The official time, 47.84. Second place, David Lee. Third, Andre Phillips. Coming up, the 200-meter dashes for both women, meaning Evelyn Ashford, and for the men, where Carl Lewis will try to complete his historic triple. The long jump is now official. Carl Lewis is the winner with his jump of 28 feet 10 1/4 inches, the second longest jump of all time. So close to Beeman's record, he attempted a second jump, but had to settle for a distance of 28.7, the fourth longest jump of all time. Here's another look, Ronaldo Nehemiah, at a spectacular accomplishment.
And it's just a remarkable performance. He's very cool, steady customer, and it's like clockwork. It's another practice, although it's the national championship here.
Only one man in history ever jumped farther, and he did it in thin air at an altitude of more than 7,000 feet. Now we're ready for the final of the women's 200-meter dash. The world record held by Marita Koch of East Germany. The American record held, of course, by the woman who has dominated the event in the United States for the past 5 years, Evelyn Ashford. Ashford, already the winner of the 100-meter dash in this meet, now tries to complete the double. She'll be running in lane 6. She had a very fast semifinal, but she could be pressed in this race by the 2 women to the inside of her. The one in the middle is Chandra Cheeseborough. You may remember when she was 17 years old on the 76 Olympic team in Montreal and made the 100-meter final. She had a faster 200-meter semifinal here than Evelyn Ashford. And to the right of her, that's Florence Griffith, who was the NCAA champion in this event a year ago and won the NCAA 400 meters this year. Some believe that this is Ashford's best event. She glides toward the tape rather than charging toward it. The rest of the field in lane 1, Gervais McCraw, lane 2, Donna Dennis, lane 3, Alice Brown, Griffith, Cheeseborough, and Ashford in the middle of the track. Grace Jackson is in lane 7, Randy Gibbons in 8, and LaShawn Ned in 9. And as they come out of the blocks, you will watch around the turn. Evelyn Ashford already making up the stagger on the runner outside of her. Cheeseborough does not appear to have a great start, nor does Florence Griffith. But now as they come to the stretch, Cheeseborough does appear to have drawn even with Ashford. And it is Ashford and Cheeseborough battling down the stretch. Evelyn's going to get a test of her competitive will here. She leans in and she's got it. For the 5th time, Evelyn Ashford has won the 200 meters. Once again, she won both the 100 and 200 here, and there, again, can be no question as to who is the top American woman sprinter.
Coming off the turn into the straightaway, Evelyn Ashford in the middle of the screen has a slight advantage over Chandra Cheeseborough on her left. And when you have about 70 meters left, there's a lot of runners that tend to tighten up and get tense. But Evelyn Ashford doesn't do that. She's illustrating that same perfect, graceful form and body lean that she did in winning that 100 meters. And right now, with about 15 meters left, Chandra Cheeseborough is very close to her, and Evelyn is preparing to lean at the tape to try to win this race. And that's why she's America's greatest sprinter today.
And now Evelyn is ready to talk with Diana Nyad on the infield.
Evelyn, level and another national title for you. Congratulations. When you come into the big meets, do you favor the 100 or the 200, or do you want to get the 100 out of the way before you get to it?
My favorite race is the 200, but you really have to be in shape for that race. So I like the 100 too. It's fast and it's over fast. So I like that too.
You were very close to a beautiful time tonight. Did you know?
No, I didn't. I wasn't loose enough for this race. I felt strong, but I couldn't relax and just let it flow.
When everybody else is scrambling that last 10 meters, you lengthen it out. You're very smooth. You don't get panicked.
It's my training, I think. My coach tries to make me very strong near the end. So it's my training.
Continue to command all of our respect. Congratulations.
Ashford's time of 21.88 is the third fastest of all time in the United States. Cheeseborough second, Griffith third.
Ready now for the final of the men's 200-meter dash. As we told you at the top of the program, not in 97 years has one man won the 100-meter dash, the 200-meter dash, and the long jump in this meet. But if Carl Lewis wins this race, that is precisely what he will have accomplished. The world and American records in this event were both set at altitude. The fastest time ever run at sea level, 1996 by Pietro Manea of Italy. In his semifinal heat, Carl Lewis ran his fastest 200 meters ever at 20.15, and he did it eased up, looking around, clapping his hands before he hit the tape. It was astonishing, but the man outside of him in lane 6, Larry Myrickx, ran an even faster semifinal at 20.13. Kirk Baptiste is in 1, Brady Crane in 2, James Butler, number 1 in the world last year, was in lane 3, Bernie Jackson in 4, Lewis in 5. Then Myrickx, Elliott Quao, the NCAA champion, Calvin Smith, who ranked number 2 in the world last year, and Alvin Payne. And as they come out, you watch the turn to see what kind of start Carl Lewis has. He is making up the stagger on Larry Myrickx already as they come to the top of the stretch. It is Lewis. Myrickx is pressing him. To the far outside, Calvin Smith is trying to get into it, but Carl Lewis is alone now as he comes down the stretch, looking around, raising his arms, and completing a spectacular and historic accomplishment unofficially.
19.75. Remember, the world record is 19.72, and that, like the long jump record, was set in the thin air of Mexico City. This is an historic race. You may never have seen a faster 200 meters under the normal conditions of sea level.
And simply an incredible performance by Carl Lewis. And you'll see coming into the straightaway, Carl Lewis will look to his right several times. The first time to Larry Myrickx, who was on his right side, who was his toughest competitor. But right now, within 20 meters from the finish, he senses victory and he starts celebrating very early. And then within 5 or 6 meters, he knows that the victory is his, and it's just a stunning performance to end a triple.
And Ronaldo, he hit the tape in 19.75, trotting, not running. He missed the world record by 3/100ths of a second.
Carl, I know you like to collect antiques. Do you get great joy in doing a double or a triple that hasn't been done in decades?
Definitely. The thing about it, Marty, is that I strive for perfection, I strive for competition, I strive for goals. And to come here and set a goal that most people don't think is attainable, but I feel is exciting to me.
Well, now, most of the people here feel they saw perhaps one of the greatest nights in many years in track and field, but they're also yelling, why did you celebrate so early? You would have had the world record in 200 meters.
Well, there's two things. Number one, I was pleased to be able to win the 200 meters. And also, I started to get a little bit tired, a little bit winded. I felt I ran an excellent race. I knew it was fast, but I didn't feel it was anywhere near the world record. But I feel I can get it sometime this summer.
Well, as you know, it was very near the world record. A double or a triple like this, is it in your mind to try something like this in the Olympics?
Well, it definitely is, and I wanted to try and triple here to see how I felt through the 3 days of competition in order to try for Helsinki. Now that I know all I need is rest and training in order to do something like this, I more than likely will try it at Helsinki, and if things go well there, then it's a good chance I'll try it in the Olympic Games.
Carl, looking back over the 3 events, which one was the hardest one to win here?
Well, the 100 meters, because 100 meters is the main event for me. I feel more comfortable with the long jump. And the 200, I just ran comfortable and relaxed all the way. I didn't feel any type of adversity or anything like that, mainly because it's not my main event. So I just felt relaxed, calm, and cool, and just ran the race I felt I should.
So on this one day in Indianapolis, Carl Lewis completed his historic triple with the longest long jump and the fastest 200 meters ever at sea level. just a few minutes, we're going to be seeing the start of the men's 1,500-meter race and a renewal of one of the great rivalries in American track and field, Steve Scott against Sidney Marie. But first, a look back at what happened in some of the other field events. In the women's long jump, Carl Lewis's 19-year-old sister, Carol, demonstrated that she holds the same dominion over the event that Carl does on the men's side. She won with a leap of 22 feet 8 inches, a new meet record and a new personal best for Carol Lewis of Willingboro, New Jersey. In the triple jump, Willie Banks demonstrated that he has been able to remain in shape despite having to fit his training in with studying for the bar exam this spring. The American record holder in the event won it for the 3rd time in his career, stretching himself out for a leap of 56 feet, 7.5 inches. Willie Banks, America's premier triple jumper. And in the high jump, another veteran came through, 29-year-old Dwight Stone. You may remember him as the boy wonder when he won a bronze medal at Munich in this event back in 1972. Well, since that time, Dwight has kept on jumping. And here, with a leap of 7 feet 6 inches, he won the American Championship in the high jump for the 6th time in 11 years. So Dwight Stones will be the elder statesman among American high jumpers at the World Championships in Helsinki.
Now one of the moments that everyone at this meet has been waiting for, the men's 1,500-meter final, world record held by Steve Ovett. The American record not that far off and held by that man, number 1, Steve Scott, who has been the top American in this event since 1977, but who has gotten a lot of competition in recent years from number 2, Sidney Marie, who will once again be here to challenge him in this race. 2 years ago in this meet, Steve Scott lost to Sidney Marie in a tight stretch battle at Sacramento. Last year, he returned the favor at Knoxville, Tennessee. There are some other strong runners in the race, notably Tom Byers, who has won some big races in an enigmatic and erratic career, but Scott and Marie are the focal point. And right now, Sidney Marie, oddly, is on the lead. Marty LaCory, does he want to be there?
No, I don't think so. This is going to be a tactical race. They're racing for the spots to go to Helsinki, where the big world record attempt will probably be made. And what's going to happen here is one of the lesser players in this drama is going to have to take the lead. Someone who knows that they can't win the race but wants to get a fast time and will sacrifice himself and know that they'll be passed in the middle of the race but be pulled to a fast time. That fellow seems to be Mark Ficker right now in the lead.
Well, he's the likely choice for the role, an Oregon State University runner who has had some great success in the early part of this season, usually likes to run at the front of the pack and pull away and win on the basis of his front-running technique. But right now, he's holding the lead with a very slow pace, it looks like to me.
It's about 59 seconds for the first lap, just a little bit under 4-minute pace. Nothing that's going to give them a shot at a world record. What you have here is a championship race with places on the line for the further championships, and you don't have a rabbit like some of the world record attempts in Europe. So now we're back to pure foot racing with Tom Byers in second, Sidney in third, and Steve Scott in fourth, and they're all watching each other. They're not thinking about the clock.
Remember that last year, Steve Cram of Great Britain, not his more publicized countryman Coe and Ovett, was the man who ranked number 1 in the world. But Steve Scott was the number 2 man in the world, and Sidney Marie was number 3.
That's right, Jim, but Steve Scott was second because he lost once to Cram, but many people were dissatisfied with that ranking because Steve Scott had run so many more races and had a much better season in many respects than Steve Cram. So you're really looking at the second and third man, or maybe the best man in the world, Steve Scott, if you take into account his consistency over the year.
Now that's Ross Donahue, formerly of Villanova, just like you, Marty, who's going up now to challenge Fricker for the lead. The pace is quickening just a little bit, but Marie and Scott are still right there, as is Tom Byers. Byers perhaps boxed a little bit on the inside, but there's still a long way to go.
There is, and they're still running just around 4-minute mile pace, 1:59 for the half, and this is where Sidney's got to make some quick decisions, because Sidney's only run 2 races so far this year. I doubt that he's real sharp and is going to be very effective in the last 50 meters. I know that he is poised for a big year, but Steve Scott's got a little bit of an edge in that he's been racing more and is a little bit more race fit than Sidney Marie. Tom Byers now moving up on the outside has had a good season with quite a few races to his his credit.
About 200 meters to go now. Here comes Scott on the outside. He's got Marie on the inside as he goes by Tom Byers. Now it is Sidney Marie who will have to play catch up as Scott goes around Byers on the outside. Tom Byers with the inside position. Doesn't look as though he's going to be able to hold off Scott. Can Sidney catch him, Marty?
Well, Steve Scott made the right move at just the right time. He's got a dying Tom Byers between himself and Sidney Marie, and I don't think Sidney will be able to get by Byers, let alone catch Steve Scott.
It is going to be Steve Scott who crosses the tape unofficially in 3:36.60. He ran a very fast last 400 meters.
53 seconds for the last 400. Very quick for this time of the year, and that was probably the difference, that Steve's got a few more races under his belt than Sidney, but this traditionally has been Steve Scott's race. It's his national championship, and I think he comes into this prepared much better than anybody else.
And the good news is that the three Americans at the World Championships will be Steve Scott, Sidney Marie, and Tom Byers. That is just the way you would want it if you root for your country. Officially, Byers got credit for second place in the race, just ahead of Sidney Marie. And overall, what we've seen here at Indianapolis has been as spectacular an exhibition of American track and field talent as has been seen in this country in the past several years. It is heartening to know that we will send to Helsinki to the World Championships a strong team headed by athletes like Carl Lewis and Edwin Moses and Evelyn Ashford and Steve Scott. So now, for Marty LaCour, Ronaldo Nehemiah, and Diana Naya, I'm Jim Lampley saying so long from Indianapolis, and back to Don Chevrier for more of the World Amateur Boxing Championship.